Big question that came up this week was like, so what about this pushing the belly out, right? Or what about when I'm instructed in a dance class or a yoga class to pull the pelvic floor in, to pull the belly in and hold it? I don't really know what the teachers are thinking when they say that. I have no idea. What I can say is there may be times where that's appropriate, where you really need that kind of stability, but that is not the thing to do in ordinary life. In ordinary life, you need to be able to have complete freedom of the pelvis, the hip joints, the breathing, the chest. And that won't happen if you have a habit of holding your belly in. Jokingly, we can say the only time you hold your belly in is when you're in a bathing suit, right? It's like it's like, oh my God, there's my belly again. But even then, if you just do it a little bit, it's okay. You just don't want to walk around like that in the world, or wear tight clothes on your belly, or push on the belly. That you need that freedom. If you want to explore this topic a lot more with what Feldenkrais has to say about it, you can read this book, The Potent Self. And Moshe Feldenkrais wrote this book before he developed awareness through movement, before he developed his method. The beginning of the book is amazing, where he talks about spontaneity and compulsion, and that we develop these ways of holding ourselves that then become compulsions and reduce the amount of spontaneity that we can have. So yeah, if you want to hold it in, you can hold it in for efforting. Like if I'm going to go out and help my neighbor carry a dresser, I'm going to pull my abdomen in to make sure that I support my back, because I have a weakness there. It's not going to happen automatically for me, but I'm not going to maintain that. My husband and I are always telling each other as we walk upstairs carrying the grocery bags, use your abs. And it's not because you use your abs, it's because you activate the entire support system, the core system, which is the pelvic floor, the abdominals, the deep muscles of the back. That pelvic core system can be activated from any one of those places, from the abdominals, from the back, or from the pelvic floor. I find it easiest from the abdominals. Often men find it easiest from the pelvic floor. And you hopefully will find some way that you can really feel this activation of the support system. Tight jeans are a problem for the belly and hip freedom. Yeah. People come to see me, they've been wearing really tight jeans. I used to belly dance, and in the belly dance is so amazing for learning to free those buttocks, because to do a shimmy, you cannot do a shimmy if your buttocks are tight. You need to let them wiggle and flap, which is not something we as women feel good about walking past a construction site, right? It's like, so, but I noticed in belly dancing that some of the women who had been wearing really, really tight clothes for a long time, their skin, the whole area was so compressed around there. So you want to have clothes that you can move in, things that aren't tight, that allow your hips freedom. Really, you train with these movement lessons, awareness through movement, so that when you go and do a functional activity, all of that is available to you. And the quality of your movement is what helps to bring in the patterns that are necessary. Can you comment on effort, over or under efforting, based on what we're learning about our bodies and how to make progress in strengthening or experiencing more health in the pelvic floor? To improve the health of the pelvic floor, you have to have appropriate effort in your action. So one thing to do that I talked about last time is this whole peeing thing, of not bearing down, not pushing when you pee, not bearing down when you arch your back. A lot of people have been taught that when they arch the back and roll the pelvis forward, that you push the belly forward. That whole language of pushing the belly forward damages your pelvic floor, because you don't want to push into the pelvic floor. You want to allow the belly to flow forward. So when I did my research, I needed a group of 10 women, or 12. I think I had 10 or 12 women for the program. And I sent out a letter asking to my mailing list, which included Feldenkrais practitioners. I sent out a letter asking people who had mild or moderate urinary incontinence and wanted to be in my program to contact me. And I got a number of Feldenkrais women contacting me who told me that they became incontinent after their Feldenkrais training program. And I too had that experience because I had learned to inhibit my abdomen so much that I never used it. There was too much emphasis, I think, in a misunderstanding of what Feldenkrais is talking about letting the belly go. And we also have to think of the historical moment. Feldenkrais is teaching in the 40s when the model was like Charles Atlas, suck your belly in, pull your chest out. The people he worked with were so tight. He was in Israel. There was the Holocaust. People were traumatized. There's awful things happening. And so there was too much tension. And his emphasis then was on letting go. But in the Potent Self, he talks a lot about the appropriate use of that. As a woman who's had 2 kids, vaginal births at home, tearing, my pelvic floor was a mess. My abdominals didn't work at all. I did not need to learn how to let them go. I needed to learn how to activate them. And so as I studied more Feldenkrais's lessons, I found out that many, many times he's asking you to activate the abdominals. Activate, activate. Twisting lessons, turning lessons, rolling lessons, standing lessons. It's just he's not using those exact words. So this is why we can't really apply a generalized model for everybody. Like everybody needs to let go in the abdomen. Not everybody does. You have a baby, you push a football through your vagina, you need to get that stuff working again. And I'm sure that if Feldenkrais had had a baby and had a vagina and felt those things, he would have developed lessons that specifically address the need for activation. His issue was tight. He was the strongest man people knew. In his biography by Mark Rees, everybody says he was the strongest man. He could carry more bricks. He could run up and down ladders with more bricks than any person they knew. And he did judo. He had an understanding of appropriate action. There are some photos of him on my website of him doing that yoga thing with the breath where you're kind of bent over and you suck your abdomen way up inside you and you outline the whole rib cage. And I thought, wow, he could do that. He understood how the abdomen worked. And I think he couldn't really imagine that mere mortals like us, or women who've had babies, or people who've had abdominal surgeries, hip replacements, which weren't even happening in the 40s, that people could have such dysfunctional coordination going on in the pelvic floor system. So that's why I never teach lessons about pushing the belly out. I always use the idea of allowing the belly to expand, allowing the belly to move forward. But I really encourage, especially women who have incontinence, who have had babies, who had abdominal surgeries, to just don't push your belly out. Allow it to go out through breathing. Wow, that's a rant, okay? But I feel so strongly about it because it really wrecked my pelvic floor abdominal relationships, pushing the belly out. And as I've, 40 years of doing the work now, I understand what he was trying to say, which he might have used the word push, but he didn't mean bear down. And that's what's happening. Pushing and bearing down are being conflated when they're actually different things. Yeah. Tiffany.
I just want to follow up with Sally's follow-up question. How does that play into the idea that you can't experience strengthening until you experience relaxation?
That's right. That's true. You can't make something stronger that's already in a spasm. The important thing is to develop the ability to lengthen. Physical therapists who work in this field talk about the short pelvic floor which means a contracted pelvic floor, so that the fibers, you know, when you have muscle contraction, you've got these actin and myosin filaments, and they slide into each other. When you contract, they shorten, and they slide out as you relax. So a shortened pelvic floor means that all of the actin and myosin filaments are shortened up, which means they're holding on to a lot of the waste products of cell metabolism. And it's when the actin and myosin let go and release that you let go of all of the products of cell metabolism. So this shortened pelvic floor also causes inflammation. It causes changes in acidity, all of these things. I mean, nothing can be separated. We're an amazingly complex system. So you've got to have the relaxation where the cells get the nutrition, and then you can have the movement to go in again. One question I'd like to just touch on lightly is about the overuse of buttocks and abs in Pilates. Well, in my pelvic floor workshops, there are many Pilates teachers who have incontinence, and they tell me that they are just overcontracted. So again, Joseph Pilates, that was not his idea. If you read his book, Controlology, that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about the control of lengthening, the control of shortening. And people misinterpret, misunderstand. And, you know, it's a lifetime of trying to understand safe movement, easy movement. Yes, and sometimes I found the sinking of the buttocks and the abs help the abs spontaneously get activated. Yes, that's how a system works. That's really the magic of Feldenkrais. Like, I don't have to know, do you have a short pelvic floor or do you have a lengthened pelvic floor? If you get the whole system to work better, your system will improve. Every part of that system will improve.